The next set of videos is about knowing and growing other people. So this is a good skill set for a manager, a leader, an employee, a loved one, a parent, whatever role you want to play. You can use this information to basically help others become better people, understand them, understand how they process each other, help them grow. So yeah, that's kind of what inspired this particular part of the series. So the first video is going to be on emotional intelligence. This is one of my favorite topics, only because of my MBTI type and the fact that this is a subject that I feel very passionate about. And I think part of it's because of my career field. As a physician, I tend to have a lot of interactions with people, and I need to be able to understand where they're coming from, so that self-awareness of my own personal how do I say, my own personal emotions that are coming across, how I'm feeling, what I'm saying, that kind of thing, and then how my patients are receiving it and how my patients are processing the information that I'm delivering, and then what they need to hear and how I need to deliver it. So you can imagine when I'm about to tell my patient good news, it's really relatively straightforward. I can tell them in a good, positive, uplifting way. But on the other hand, if I'm delivering bad news, like if I'm telling a patient they had cancer, I need to be able to read them well enough to know, am I going too far? Are they taking what I'm saying seriously? Are they understanding the gravity of the situation? Are they at the point where they're not listening anymore? They're not understanding what I'm saying because they've shut down. I need to be able to perceive that. So this particular skill set is incredibly important, and it's something that, although I feel like I'm fairly good at, I also have a lot of room for growth. So let's talk about emotional intelligence. It is considered a soft skill, so there's no way to objectively measure whether or not you've got this skill or not. It's not like an intelligence, like an IQ. You can measure IQ, you can take a test and get an IQ score, but you can't with EI, you can't with the emotional intelligence. So it's the ability to perceive others and your own emotions and understand their signals, and it's the ability on how to manage those signals that they're giving you. So it's basically what emotional intelligence is. There are different components of it, so I'll have my girls go through that now. Let's talk about the power of self-awareness. When you are observant and honest about your own actions and what they might mean and how that might affect others, it will help you understand how you're coming across when you're giving information or when you're acting a certain way. So the power of self-awareness is incredibly important, to just be aware of what you're doing and how it might influence others. The next section is that self-regulation, so that control and redirection of disruptive mood or behavior. So sometimes I walk into clinic and I'm a little grumpy. Not very often, but sometimes it is. And just being aware of my mood when I walk in the door is pretty important. So, or if I'm in a real big hurry, let's use that as an example. That's a better example. I'm running late in clinic. This happens every single day. Sometimes I start late. Sometimes I'm on time, sometimes I'm early, but then I end up late because there's an emergency. Most of the time that's the case, but it happens. But either way, I'm always running late in clinic. And if I don't check myself before I walk into my next patient room, they will notice that I am distraught and stressed and anxious and whatever. So self-regulation is pretty important in that sense. Motivation, knowing your own motivation, knowing the motivation of others, the emotional intelligence behind that motivation factor is pretty important. This can be involving like their energy, their passion, their persistence, why they like to go for certain tasks. I love that component of it. And then empathy. I would love to do a video on just empathy, but there's a lot of good information out there on empathy, so I'll just skip that one for now. But empathy is a big component of it. This is how well you understand the emotional makeup of somebody, and how you actually deal with that. So it's the emotional makeup of somebody and the emotional reaction that you receive. So when I'm delivering that bad news to my patients, It's how do I respond when they're talking to me? How do I respond when they're crying on me, or crying to me, or telling me something else personal that happened? It's that empathetic side. So very important skill set, but it's part of that emotional intelligence. And then the last part of it is that social skill. So that common ground, finding that rapport between you and others. That's pretty important to be able to build that between people. And this is a big thing that I do in clinic too, is when I'm meeting a patient for the first time, is what's our commonality, where's our bond at, getting to know each other, that kind of thing. And it is how I actually start all my clinic appointments off at. Hey, how you doing? How's your family? How was your holidays? Little things like that, even though it just takes a few seconds, does develop that relationship. So you can use that in your meetings, just taking a few minutes to get to know each other, to allow for that socialization before the meeting starts, does actually offer some good benefit for team building. So emotional intelligence, soft skill set, incredibly important, but it's important to know yourself, but then also to be able to receive and perceive, or perceive and then receive others too. So realize their action. The other component that was in that Harvard Business Review was actually about steadiness and self-control. And I didn't talk a lot about this in the Knowing and Growing Oneself section, but I'll talk about it in this emotional intelligence section because it was there. So this is about knowing your hot buttons. This is about knowing what your triggers are, and this is about for yourself and for your employees too. So of course it's important to know what things are going to anger you and what things are going to upset you and what things are going to set you and derail you off for the day, and then being able to have enough control to not let it affect you. But it's also important for you to know that about your employees, because there will be times when your employee comes in and they're angry and you don't know why, right? Or maybe you do know why, what happened, but you weren't able to intervene ahead of time, or maybe you knew ahead of time and you just had to let it happen, or maybe that employee is angry because a couple employees fought, who knows. But to be able to sense that they're angry, to be able to catch that, to be able to help them control their feelings is an important skill set. So this is important for you to know how to handle it. So when you're dealing with an employee, let's talk about that, who has derailed, and you're trying to work on your emotional intelligence skill set, and you are dealing with a hot spot for an employee, you can first let them identify what happened. So identify the cause of their hot spot. You can listen to them. You can help them reframe their thinking. You can help them see what exactly happened and see how it aligns with the team. And maybe you just need to reset their thinking process, or help them get back in line with what the goals are for the team, or maybe just flat out apologize for what happened. Maybe it was something that was in your realm, that was your fault, and you need to apologize. So do what you need to for that self-control, and for that regulation and that steadiness aspect, for that emotional intelligence. But this is a very important skill set that you can do. So a lot of development for your personal self, a lot of importance for being able to take that and to know others and to help them grow in that realm. And then if you identify the anger, the hot spots, and that deregulation of the self-control for others, because of your emotional intelligence, there are different tactics that you can use to try to help them with that. Again, the resource that I've used for this one is that Harvard Business Review. So if you guys are interested, this book is awesome. Big topic. I could go on a lot longer for this, but I will spare you guys that detail. More information later on about this topic in the future series. All right, thanks guys.